Welcome to our weekly Roc Open Mic. For those of you who are new, we do this for you. MSPs asked us to see what we've been working on the platform, what bugs have been fixed, be able to ask questions and get help in real time from others, and to do a little R&D with your peers or rob and duplicate. So here's your chance to see what other MSPs are doing with automations and ask them about it. So you can get some creative ideas for what to do with yourself. Also, if you're in Discord, help us out. If you're in the coop or you're in your private channel and you say, hey, I've got something that's erroring out, the quickest thing you can do to help us is to include a URL to that error. Feel free to send us the results or the link to the workflow, because our very first question will always be, can you send me a link? And we can cut that out really quickly. Also, if you're interacting with us in Discord, either create a thread or tag us. We're all monitoring tens or hundreds of channels. If you're the person building automations in your environment, this call is for you. This is a highly technical call. If you're the owner, operator, bill payer, this call may be a little more technical for you, but you can still chill out and see what everyone's working on and learn and be a part of the community in this call. If you're building workflows, make sure to include time savings as well. I'm going to share my screen. I didn't create a slide, but I've got my browser here to talk about what we just announced. And this is my favorite article from MSP Success. I don't think I'd ever heard of them before this, but they asked me during the interview, can you tell us what you think will happen in the future? And this was my favorite quote. A lot of you folks are super technical and will understand where I'm coming from, but there's going to be some MSPs that pull out their phone or open their laptop and show them an app that they made on Rewst that allows the customer to do things automatically, working directly with the MSP. And then there's going to be some MSPs that say, well, we don't have that, but you can call us, right? It's going to, this is the vision. We want you folks to differentiate yourself using automation. And they really were very good at understanding what I was talking about. When you talk about automation with your clients or how you use automation internally, you don't have to say you automate. You just focus on what are the outcomes of automation within your environment, that your SLAs are shorter than folks who don't automate. So the big gist of it is we raised $45 million Series C with Sapphire, SAPPHIRE Ventures, leading the round, the main investor in this round. Definitely go to their website to look at the companies that they've invested in the past. They've got a ton of experience and they'll help us grow as we maneuver into an even larger company than we are today. Any questions on the fundraise from the group, you can just raise your hand or throw it into chat. Okay. Thank you, Jimbo. As part of the process, if you've been a customer for a year, you'll realize that we had a Series B that we announced in January. Just the fact that we raised a round in August was not because we're out of money, not necessarily even because we needed money. We, in fact, still have over 85% of the money we raised from the Series B, we still have. It's just that there's a lot of froth and FOMO in the market from the VCs, especially the ones that weren't able to get into our Series B. We kept saying, no, we don't want your money. But eventually the offers got so good that we had to say yes. Pizza, I don't think we can wire money to your bank account, but we can send some pizza.
Is it because of the gift cards I didn't get you?
Yeah, I'm passive aggressive. I didn't get the Best Buy Apple gift cards that I needed. We are going to have to spend this money. So as always, we're going to be hiring product and software development people to continue to innovate as quickly as possible in the platform. We've also created a new team. Well, it's kind of been around, but we're restructuring it to make it even better for you folks to create automations for the marketplace so they're not distracted by Discord and questions, that they can focus on just marketplace workflows. $45 million could probably buy you a few Skyline Chili franchises as well. My board would be definitely upset with that pivot, but I would be very happy. Also, this one was, I'm switching topics. Any more questions? Earlier this week, I think it was yesterday, this week has been a blur for me, yesterday or the day before yesterday, we had Logan asked, will these VC firms ever control more than 50% of Rewst between them? Yeah, none of them control anywhere close to 50% by themselves. So we don't have to worry about that. The one thing that, how much money will be put towards R&D on negative time savings? Yeah. We'll bring in a whole team of people just to do it. One of the things about giving you some insight, if you have a large investor, you want them on the board because now the investor has fiduciary duty to the company to make the best decision for the company. So even if an investor had 80% of the business, as long as they're on the board, they've got fiduciary responsibility to do the best thing. With that, we had, can someone tell me, I'm changing topics, when we deleted or accidentally removed an option from a workflow? What date was that?
That was Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, so this any workflow that used the update ticket note action, that workflow just vanished. Not workflow, action just vanished. And we returned that action 3 or 4 hours later back to all workflows. Apologies for that. If anyone is was super impacted and wants to talk to me, please DM me in Discord, and I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk to you about what happened. It was like a 3 or 4 hour period earlier this week, and we completely reversed it. If anyone ever wants to know if we have good disaster recovery or backups, we have really good ones. We leverage them to the highest degree in a very quick amount of time. And with that, let's party. Ash, what's up?
Thank you, Aaron. All right, we definitely missed you last week. Nick did actually a really good job of being you last week, so that was pretty cool. But speaking of Nick, we will actually jump right over to him now for the dev update.
Thanks, Ash. Welcome everybody to the Roc call. I'm going to start by sharing my window as I normally do, and we'll talk about some updates this week. All right. A bit sparse on the updates this week. We are working super hard on some of these larger initiatives we have going in development. So that is why we'll touch on those in just a minute here. We did get one small new feature out for CSP permission selecting. We added a feature to quickly select all or clear all based on a filter. So we've had a filter functionality in there for a while where you can type ahead to reduce the list of the many permissions for CSP. And now we added a couple buttons where you can select all or clear all based on those filters too. A couple bug fixes in chores. We removed the open API spec from pack config queries for custom integrations v2 that was getting added to any workflow execution that occurred using a custom integration v2. And if you're familiar with open API specs, those files can be very, very large, and they're not needed to execute the tasks in the workflow. So we removed them so that we don't take up extra space in our database or in our workflow processing system. We also marked the address, contact, and document fields as required for IT portal facilities actions. And some of these larger items we've been working on this week, IT portal integration has moved to deployment under a feature flag. It's being reviewed before we release it to you all. And we have WebRoot, ServiceNow still awaiting a couple of enhancements. And we've started development on GitHub integration and a Cove integration. Some other larger projects that have seen progress this week, syncing of Create Marketplace items across regions and environments, and building out the new regions and environments in Europe, Australia, and US West. We're making good progress there, and say we're close to 70 or 80% complete. So those are coming soon. Still working on Synix Australia integration. Something else to note here, somebody had asked about Synix Canada integration in the COOP earlier this week. We'll take a look at that, but the reason why we had to build a separate integration for Australia is because their API is drastically different. It wasn't possible for us to just add a new endpoint and use the existing Synix US integration with Australia. But we can investigate Canada. Maybe it is the same as the US or Australia, and we won't need to build yet another one. That is about all that I have for this week, Ash. Any questions? All right, back to you, Ash. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so our Daniel with an A is still on vacation this week, so we aren't having an update from him, but we are going to have Matt on our marketplace team, who's actually going to be showing us off. I don't remember, I'm not going to misquote him. I'll let him explain what he's showing us off.
Thanks, Ash. Yeah, hopefully I'm going to be as entertaining as Daniel is. I think we get him back next week, thank goodness. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared out here. We've got a couple things to talk about. One thing is like a semi-announcement. Here at the Create Marketplace team, we value the feedback from the community, and in the past we haven't really been able to get that information to us before we release the Create. So what we're going to do pretty soon here is get a Discord channel going with the forum feature, and as the Create Marketplace team is building things, we'll have like a minimum viable product that will be out in the Create Marketplace for you guys to download and start getting feedback. And with that channel, we'll go ahead and put our changes and things that are getting added, and try to get as much feedback from you guys as possible and implement those changes into the stuff that we're building as we're building it. So, I know I've worked with like Jim Barry in the past and some others and got some really good information about things that I might have missed or not seen. So we really want to get you guys a little bit more involved in that process. So in that vein, I'm going to show off a pretty early version of this compromised user response crate. The names may change, some features may change here, obviously, but we're going to try to get this out to you guys pretty soon so you can start picking it apart and seeing if you guys want to add any actions or remove things, or really, I'm looking at some of the formatting stuff is where I'm a little stuck right now, and I just want to see what you guys think is going to be important information to make it a valuable crate for you. So just to show this one off here, ultimately what this is going to do is there's going to be some action parts, there's going to be some reporting parts, and ultimately this is going to go to a ticket in your PSA. It'll be meant to be run at the top level, so you'll choose the organization. You could do multiple users here and choose a date range for some of the reporting information that we pull. Some basic actions like forcing a password change, blocking out the user, and invalidating sessions. Also doing some things with like mail actions, removing any external domain rules, attempting to do like a mail recall if possible, and even notifying like the recipients of any mail that was sent from that user during this time frame. All that stuff is going to be done in templates, so you can modify how like the wording is on everything, but we'll have obviously a base version of what it looks like. Some of the reporting stuff here, we're going to have like user sign-ins during that time frame, any mail sent, like mail flow reports. And we've we've used got some inspiration from someone mentioned in one of the channels, well, I'm blanking on the name, Canny, this Hawk tool. So I took some of the things that they were doing and sort of implemented in Rewst, as many as the actions that we can through Graph. Some of the stuff is Exchange Online only, which we're going to try to implement before we release everything. But here's the form, here's the workflow, pretty straightforward workflow.
Pause. Can you explain what the start and end date was? Because people are going to be wondering about that.
Yeah, so some of the like reporting things that we do, or when we're pulling the emails, so we want to do it from a certain time range, right? So this would be like if you suspect that a user's been compromised, you're going to set a start date that you think and an end date, and then when we filter off of like the mail flow result or the sign-in activity, we're going to only get information from that date range. There's also, we're also doing reporting from another endpoint from Microsoft, and that's a little bit, doesn't really provide the date range aspect, but you are able to choose like your how far back you want to go for certain reports, and that's just going to be using the reporting API from Microsoft. Does that explain it?
I understand.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll have some descriptions here as well whenever this is finalized and make it a little bit more clear. So onto the workflow, I'll just be real quick with this. Just pretty straightforward. It's got a lot of no-ops checks to see what features you want to do. All of these things are going to be done in sub workflows, running as org and looping through the users that you selected, so we get the same results from everyone that's there. Yeah, pretty straightforward workflow. There's also we're calling this the Rooster report here. Again, this borrows a lot from that Hawk report that they have and some of the actions that it does. I'm gonna want to see what you guys think about the data that we're pulling here, right? Like I'm not sure what information it's, it seems like through that tool, it's dumping just a lot of information into like a CSV or the report that you get. We probably want to hold back on dumping out so much information and focus in on the stuff that's going to be actually important to you. So I'll be wanting to get a little bit of feedback on what kind of things you guys are looking for. This would be like an example of some of the mailbox usage stuff that we get. I'm not sure how much of this is relevant, if this is something that you'd want to see in the ticket or not. But once the workflow runs, it'll report anything that failed or succeeded as far as like the actions that it takes. And yeah, I'll put that over to a ticket. I'm open to feedback if you guys think that the ticket is the right spot for this. Maybe possibly, moving to a documentation platform is another good spot, or breaking out some of this so like the reporting is in its own crate and separate from the actual actions that we do. But yeah, I'm looking for feedback. We'll get that Discord channel up pretty soon, and just let me know in there if you guys have any questions or if you have anything that you want to see. And obviously on the open mic as well, if you want to give any feedback, if there's anything in here that you'd like to see done, we'd appreciate it.
Matt.
Is this of interest to anyone?
Yeah, I think it's very useful. I actually started to build out something similar in tangent to this. Hold on one moment. Let me see if I can pull it up and share a little bit of that with you guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know that we had done something similar to this too, but anything that we don't have to maintain ourselves would be nice.
Matt, you're maintaining it forever.
Okay.
I love it.
Um,
Oh, I'm gonna keep on this.
what are we? Who was it that was speaking?
Was that Brett? Was it Brett?
Yes, that was me. Just one more moment. I just want to pull up a copy of the report that we
okay.
generate.
All right, cool.
Okay.
While Brett's getting ready, I had a question for everyone. I'm taking it to the next step, which was, could you ever see a signal that you receive from a product, a report, or something where it's always 100% accurate, where you'd ever want to go through this response fully automated? Brian says yes. What kind of signal do you get from what that you always trust? I guess we won't know. Tyler, do you have a? You want to?
Now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I'm wondering what we have that we 100% trust. So I'm starting to think about it a little bit more.
And we may not know right now, but sure, there's like 80-90% of the time you would always just fill out the form and do it. But I always think about the future, like in the middle of the night, you get one of these, and it would be cool to have it triggered automatically at some point.
Just as long as it's non-destructive.
Yeah. Brett, what you got?
All right, so I'm going to share up my screen quickly here. So this is kind of just pre-production, one of our security team workflows we're working on. Right now, it just has a form trigger where we give it the CSP partner that we're related to, the ticket ID, and affected email address. And then we're pulling in the mailbox rules for the account, revoking the tokens, pulling the audit log, disabling the account, pulling recent enterprise apps, the last sent 10 emails, days worth of email that went out, also their MFA methods and their sign-in logs. And then through this very convoluted mess of a workflow that's not optimized in any way, we'll pulls up an incident report and generates it in HTML. So this is like an example report that it generated where it pulls account information, proxy addresses, on-prem info, and then it parses the sign-in logs to just pull out the unique sign-ins. So you get instant visibility of kind of where to narrow it down. And then also information from the latest sign-in, like user agent, blah, blah, blah. That does it for the unique sign-ins and the non-interactive sign-ins. And then we take the unique IPs from these reports and we throw it through the IP quality score API. This checks if it's a Tor IP, if it's a VPN IP, things like that, and then generates this edge of the report. And then also, obviously, the list of MFA methods get displayed, any inbox rules that might be generated. This is a little broken right now, reading the folder names. We have to do some more work on that, but in the process. And then, like I said, the enterprise applications, the most recent 10 that have been added to the tenant, because there's tons of time when we take on a new client where they allow users to enroll any application, and then threat actors love to just hang out in there. But yeah, that's kind of where we're started. We have a whole on-prem section of this we're trying to build out as well to disable the account on-prem and run an AD sync, pull logs, and then try to do some of this analysis on the logs as well.
Wow. Brett, wow. I'm going to ask a different question, which is when you were building this, how many questions did you ask in your Discord?
In the Rewst Discord?
No, yeah, in your private Discord for your company.
What do you mean?
Did you ask?
the Rewst
Did you
support
ask
help?
for help? Did anyone help?
Oh
you?
yeah, there was definitely stuff. I mean, I'm part of the security team in my organization, so my focus immediately was trying to. I started building this out just with raw API calls a couple months ago, and then we took on Rewst, and then I said, okay, well, I'm porting it to Rewst now, so that's what this is the result of. But yeah, no, I mean, I was annoying Rewst quite a bit for the Roc support for just learning the ins and outs of the platform and the best Rewst way to do things, but it's been moving along, especially lately.
You did it right. For any of you folks who are new that are looking to build more, abuse your Discord channel. Get in there, ask questions. The best way is to start a workflow, get stuck, get an error, jump in your Discord, throw the URL in of your failure, and say, "Help! What I do wrong?" And get the Roc to come in and answer your questions. So really good stuff, Brett. Thank you for taking the initiative to show it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to show it off with you guys. It's kind of, I consider it early days still, but for the Rewst official one too, anything you want to bounce off me for ideas, I'm happy to share and happy to help.
Yeah, that's awesome and an inspiration. So I appreciate it.
Great chat. All right. Thank you, Brett. Thanks, Matt. We're going to move over to Brandon now for our education update.
Hey everyone, let me share my screen here. Did you say education update? Because I kind of like that. It's like edification, but education. I'm down. All right, so today, not only do I have hats to share, but I had headphones as well. So I'm trying to mix things up for you guys, make it exciting to show up and see the education update. Okay, got a few big updates here, specifically around our Rewst 100 series. So from August 12th to the 21st is going to be your last opportunity to sign up for the live trainings for the 100 series. We are going to be shifting to self-serve and focus on building some new trainings for you guys. So just as a heads up there, please let us know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about that. But we are excited to work on some updates for our self-serve videos as well. So more on that to come. But before we get into anything else, let me jump into my game tips of the week. So first, I'm going to have my retro tip, and this one is more experiential. So I went to a GameStop last weekend, and I asked them if they had any retro games in the back because there wasn't anything on the shelves. The guy gave me a stack of games to look at that they just got, and I was able to pick up Dragon Quest VIII for 3DS for about $48. Normally, it's about $100 to $120 on eBay. So my tip to you is always ask, and you may find one of those gems. Otherwise, my modern game tip of the week is very simple, that Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is coming out soon, and you don't really need to play anything else. That's the one. That's the one for August and beyond. All right. Shout outs to Jason, Ed, Adam, Ann, and Zach for taking the certification exam and passing. You guys will receive your prestigious Certified Rooster badge in Discord. And don't forget to check us out in the CluckU Discord channel. For those of you, again, who pass, you will get access to the Bird Brains channel, which is a super secret, I guess I just revealed it, a sort of secret channel where you can talk with other people who have passed the certification exam for any questions. Otherwise, we have our office hours and Roc AMA that you can join. If you are going through training, if you're new, check out our office hours. You can jump in and you can ask any questions while you're going through training as you're trying to apply what you're learning to building new workflows. And we have our Rewst AMA, our Roc AMA as well, where if you are certified, you can jump in and ask some more in-depth questions with some of our Roc experts. All right. Finally, just a couple of things here. Like I said, we're going to be moving towards self-serve for the 100 series, so stay tuned for some more information about that and the updates that we have coming for some of the self-paced content. Just as a group of reminders here, we do also have some opportunities for you guys to provide feedback for us if there are any topics that you'd like to see us cover, or if you have any points of improvement. We have some forms that you can fill out here as well, including Canny for both documentation and training. And as far as updated pages this week, it's going to be light. We have our Roc Open Mic, or rather just the Open Mic video up from last week as well. So that's going to be it for this week, but we have a lot of exciting things to come. So back to you, Ash.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, so this week on our Roc segment, we are going to have 3G. So Greggory, what do people outside of Rewst call you?
So I think you and Martin are the only ones to call me Greg, maybe Mindy. And that's because I know all you guys from the early days of Lab Tech Geek from way back when. But I go by 3G here at the Roc. If you ask for me about the Greggory, folks will not know who you are talking about. But today, we'll talk about an interesting way that horseshoe theory applies to Rewst. So for those who don't know, horseshoe theory is the idea that as you get to either extreme, things curve around and they're the same. And I have found that there's a common hurdle with Rewst when it comes to the idea of development. So you have a lot of folks who want to get active in Rewst, but feel that they don't have anyone who can develop. So that's on one end. And then on the other end, you have the folks who have a strong background in coding and development and they get into Rewst. And it's like, this would just be so much faster in PowerShell, Python, what have you. So really the same core issue. And it was a big struggle for me when I first began working here as someone who has spent a lot of time in PowerShell, SQL, and Terraform, is you think of development as a very text code heavy thing, and which is often true, but what Rewst is doing, unlike most ideas of low code, no code, where you're just like dragging things onto a canvas, which we have and we do, but we also are developing within Rewst, but in a visual way, as opposed to like a text-based way. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see my horrific fake PowerShell, because I have not actually written real PowerShell in in some time. Let's see, and it is here. Okay, so we have very basic PowerShell, which I'm sure is also probably wrong in some areas. But let's just say, I want to get every user that I have in Azure AD, and anyone that does not have an email address, I want to just go ahead and disable them. So those of us that are used to PowerShell would probably have something like this, maybe a function if we're reusing it, and it's great. It works great. And if it's something that you're used to, this is quick. I'm sure a lot of folks who do develop regularly in PowerShell or Python can crank out these things in a matter of minutes. Now you have someone who maybe isn't so savvy and they're thinking, okay, this is what I have to do. So it bogs them down as well. And really, it's just a matter of adjusting your way of thinking. Once I figured that out, that's when things began to click for me. And two caveats here. I'm going to be ignoring Jinja. Jinja is a learning curve that I think everybody who comes to Rewst has to deal with, regardless of whether they have a background in coding or not. And it's kind of a bit outside of the scope of things. And the other things, I'm not going to actually be using any real Rewst actions in this. So just keep that in the back of your head. This is just an exercise in reframing how you think and approach things. So really what we're doing with Rewst is we are operating in individual tasks. So instead of thinking like all this stuff, it's really, what am I really doing with this? So to take this and take it, and something a bit more task-based, which the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting all my users. Second thing I'm doing is I'm going to look for any of those who don't have an email address, and anyone who doesn't have an address gets disabled. So this is something that I think anybody, regardless of whether or not they are a developer or a coder, what have you, is able to work with. All right, so then how does this translate over to Rewst? And we like to build out some of our workflows just with no ops first, just have an idea of where we are. So as usual, we're going to start with a begin point. It's a good label to have. And also the Rewst engine does this really, really funky trick where it decides the starting point based on the number of arrows pointing to it. So you could literally have a like good, bad, if bad, and go here, and then, go here for a retry. This workflow officially has no starting point. I learned this the hard way. I had no idea what was going on, but someone clued me in. So just a bit of background there for your own knowledge. So we always have a begin point. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my users. So I'm going to have an action here. I'm just going to say get ref users. Okay. And then the next thing I wanted was find anyone that didn't have an email address. So what I'm going to do is have, and we like to do a lot of our heavy agenda in its own action in a no-op. So I'm going to have a no-op here that's just going to be find users, no email address. All right, and then the next thing I said was anyone that doesn't have an email address is going to get disabled. So what I know about that is I'm going to be doing a with items because I want this next step to run for everybody that does not have an email address. That'll work on an action. However, if you are doing a with items on a single task, if any of those fail, it will blow up your entire workflow. So we'll recommend having a sub workflow, kind of like how we have that, for each user and users deal. So we'll just do this. We'll go here and we'll say, I'm going to have a sub workflow here. I'm going to say start. And hopefully you all type better than I do today. Start sub workflow for each user. And we're going to have an action. It's going to be disable the user. And we are going to end our sub workflow. And we're going to go back and we're going to actually end the entire thing here. And that's more or less how you would take something like this and put it into Rewst. So once you have kind of this mapped out, then you can go through and do your, okay, graph. I need to know, I need to list my users, and there is a list users action. So you could just kind of take this and we can replace that no-op with our action. And we'll publish this as users. And then in here, we can do our agenda. again, that's a learning curve. And this is off the top of my head, so I apologize. It may or may not be fully correct. User.id for user and CTXE. Users if user.mail. Yeah, users no mail. And I mean, this is kind of just roughly how you go about just beginning your tasks. And this would be a sub workflow. So for here, we'd make a new workflow and pass in that information. And I actually found this really helpful a while back as we had someone who had a very well written out PowerShell module and function for doing a bunch of stuff with onboarding new customers with rules and things like that. And they wanted it to go into Rewst. And it was just really a matter of doing this exact same thing. It was, okay, I have my first thing, was make rule, make rule. And then it was like apply rule, because again, we have to take out that massive code block and think of it in each, really like what are the most basic steps that are happening. So we had a apply rule, and these wound up having to be API calls, but the same principles there. And I just made a pair like this, it was like, make rule 1, apply rule 1. My next pair was make rule 2, apply rule 2. And I just did that with all no ops, and then I just went through one by one and just took that Graph API call and replaced those things because they had all the URLs and stuff in there. But that's kind of just really the quick way to just start adjusting your thinking, because you'll find that, yes, at first, if you're used to being in code, it is faster in code. But then once you stop and reframe how you do it, we're doing it Rewst, and you realize, okay, I no longer have to worry about, is my PowerShell version up to date? Is the machine I'm running on, does it have the right Python on it, etc. And then if you're someone who's not really strong at coding and developing, you're not worried about learning all the syntax. You're saying, okay, I know exactly what tasks I have to do, and Rewst has most of those. So if I just make a bunch of no ops saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, then you just find that corresponding action and go through with it. Does anybody have any questions for me about anything I've said?
Thank you. Thank you, 3G. Thank you so much. That was really awesome. All right.
Your delivery was very Eddie-like.
It was very good.
I thought I was watching an educational course. It's great. Thank you.
So in my next life, if I'm ever isekai'd into an alternate Rewst world, I can go into education.
Yes,
absolutely. Thank you, everybody.
All right. So there was the one comment that I think was funny. Chris was like, but how, I think he meant it kind of jokingly, where he was like, but how do you group your sub workflows together with your main workflows without folders? And, sometimes on these open mics, we have some presentations where it's like, oh, you're using Rewst to solve for problems you have within Rewst. I won't steal his thunder. I'll let Alden take it from here.
Well, hey, happy Friday, everyone. First got started off right. Real quick, while we're at it, in chat, everyone drop whether you're left or right-handed, or if Ashley can throw a poll. We had a poll the other day and kind of failed at it. didn't get the visibility, but yeah, Chris had a great question regarding the ability to have a better way to discern between workflows and not get lost in your sea of sub workflows. So, I mean, I'm sure that all of us kind of have a setup that looks like this, where you're going through your workflows looking for yours. Maybe you've got some tags in place, maybe not. But it, generally looks like this, and you end up having to go a couple pages back looking for whatever you were working on the other day. So I I got the same problem. So I went ahead and built just a little workflow here to kind of parse through my workflows with a quick little variable we set in here. So we're setting our folders just to a blank list. Go ahead and take all of the workflows from the list workflows workflow or function rather, and then take those all in, ingest the tags on them. If we got one tagged as a parent, we kind of go ahead and throw that one place in a table. Otherwise, if it has a tag that matches a parent, it then goes into a different place in the table. So a little technical, but really, you know, if we go ahead and go here, it kind of ends up looking something like this. Actually, I want to go ahead and restart this now real quick. If you guys are not familiar or haven't worked with that platform, this might look a little funky to you, but it sure looks funky to me. But it works once you wrap your mind around it. So let me just go ahead and reload this real quick. I've been doing some work while the meeting was getting started here. And what we really have going on though is kind of a table here that then ingests the workflow data, where I'm taking a variable called folder name that I was just showing you guys kind of how it wrote out to, and parsing that for both the parent folder and then the sub workflow name. So you know, we're kind of looking at the editor here, not really getting to see the big picture. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop this guy out here, publish it real quick with our new data, and we'll go ahead and pull this guy up here. And so once it loads, we're going to have a nice little page showing all of our workflow folders. So if I were to go into my Autotask folder, I've got my delete Autotask ticket, my production, you know, close random open ticket, my get statuses and my priorities, and then also just updating the thing in Autotask. You know, pull up my Rewst one. I've got my copy of negative time savings final. You know, delaying all the workflows that are running between 1 and 10 minutes. You know, normal stuff. But really, this kind of helps me and my company organize the workflows and find the important ones based off of, you know, which task we're working with, which platform. And if we've got one that works between Screen Connect and Autotask, or Rewst and Autotask, et cetera, then we can kind of split them all out and really parse through them that way. And find things much easier. And so that's kind of what I've been working on recently, trying to get a handle on that platform. What questions do you guys have?
Amazing.
Could you also show negative time savings?
No, you see that's in the Rewst final. Yeah. But that's the really real copy. I didn't realize the spacing would be so off. It is the master copy too.
Master copy 2 really final, this time for reals.
Killing me.
Thank you so much, Alden. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alden.
As well, because, you know, the title and the footer are variables, I can go ahead and share that for anyone who's using app platform and let them kind of build that to work for them, but also kind of get a feeling of how to use that platform, because that was my biggest hurdle, was trying to learn how to use it.
Thank you, Alden. All right, we'll coordinate that and get that out for everybody who wants that. We do have some time left, so Aaron, Birch, or however you pronounce your last name, sorry. We do have time for one of your workflows, so you can pick. Shaman's choice.
All right, let me go ahead. Let me share my screen, and it's Birch like the tree. Actually, I know it's spelled super weird though.
Okay, Birch.
All right, so something. Okay, yeah, I'm sure. Something that I noticed with the, I believe it is the get users workflow from the crates. I'm drawing a blank on the exact name of that. It's the one that creates MS365 users, though. document users detail. And something I noticed when I was inside of there, that there is linking option that it does for the groups. There's linking options that it does for the licenses. But however, I noticed that with the MS365 users, there was no linking to the contact or anything like that. So you essentially had this kind of orphaned report of 365 for this user that was totally separate from their contact, and you had to search for it, everything like that. And it a little bit defeated the purpose, because by the time you found that, you could have just pulled up the credentials and pulled up the admin side in right about the same amount of time. So what I actually did is too many windows open. Essentially, this runs from our parent organization. It goes through, it lists all of the organizations inside of Rewst. From there, it'll go through with the items of all organizations, and we'll pass that as each ID as a variable. With that, it'll send that into the following workflow, where we use Rewst get organization variable to actually get the IT glue organization variable. And that is because this is still running over our head organization. So I had to find a different way rather than using the straight org variables to go ahead and pull this. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. But it will go ahead and from the organization ID of Rewst, it will pull the organizational variable, the IT glue underscore org underscore ID, because we need that later for this request over to the list contacts. It'll list all the contacts inside of the entire company. That way it doesn't have to make per user requests or anything like that for information. Okay, publishes that as contacts. And we actually loop through that contacts with items. And from there, we actually pull the attributes, the name of the user, the organization ID, the contact ID, which is the numerical value of the contact inside IT glue. And for the primary email, it goes through, it finds which one is marked as the primary email, and it will use that one for any kind of searching or anything like that it has to against contacts. And it'll send all that information into the last sub workflow of, we list all the flexible assets, sorry about that, all the ones that are listed under MS365 users for that company's ID and with that user's name. So an asset for that user, and then uses, grabs the asset ID from that response, which thank you Rewst support and Rewst chat for helping me figure out this stupid list of lists right there. But from there, it'll go ahead, create the destination ID as the contact. Destination type is always going to be a contact, so that can be hard-coded. Let you know that it's the user's account and notes, and then tags the resource ID or the asset ID to the actual contact. Once it sends it over to IT glue, it looks something like this with a little note that just says user's account. If you click on that, send you on over to the full user report from Rewst about the 365 user. And then you can actually go back to the contact from there as well.
Amazing, Aaron. I have some questions for you since your name is new to me.
Sure.
How long have you been using Rewst?
I think we're coming up on here. I have a ticket actually right when we started Rewst. That would be officially about 2 months now.
And what's your background?
Actually, this is my first IT job. I'm only in my second year. It's mainly self-taught, self-learning. pretty much that method for most of my life. I've done about a month or two of schooling, but a lot of that was more just kind of getting used to the business side of things.
You're
Are
gonna
you
have
left or right-handed?
Yeah, you left or right. You're
What?
gonna have an amazing career, Aaron.
Thank you.
Really good work.
If anybody wants the workflows or anything, I'd be more than happy to export them. It's using majority of variables and everything like that, so it should be pretty universal.
We have a forum channel in Discord. I can help you get it set up there if you need. I'll send you the link to it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome.
But that is all on that side of things, at least.
Well,
We'll have Aaron back next week because he has another one to show us.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we also have Elliot next week as well.
Great.
Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
We typically run over, and I'm going to try to be respectful of everyone's time. I do want to say thank you for everyone that shared their screen. It is stressful and sometimes different, something you don't do every day, probably sharing your screen to 150 people. So thank you for folks that put in that effort. Please help your peers in the Discord channels. So periodically with your free time, take a peek at the Discords and help your peers out. And with that, thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Ash, for putting this together. See you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.